I'm helping the environment. I'm doing something good. I'm actually making things better. I'm producing really good food that I really love to eat. And then I'm sharing that with other people and restaurants that are showcasing it.
This is the 6th episode of The Producers in Launceston, a special podcast series celebrating the food, wine and people of this very special part of Tasmania. Anthony Ashe and his wife Paula run pastured chickens for their eggs at Rosella Roost in Rosevale, 25 kilometres west of Launceston. They're quite new to farming, but they've plunged in, using their expertise in other fields of science and agriculture to get things rolling, with as much attention to regenerating the soil and giving their chickens a good life as to producing tasty eggs.
Hi, my name's Anthony Ashe. I am talking to you from Rosella Roost, which is a very small farm in Rosevale in northern Tasmania. So on the farm, we have a license that we can have pastured layers and pastured broilers with also Japanese quail. Our farm is called Rosella Roost. The reason why we have called the farm that name is because we have a lot of beautiful eastern rosellas that nest in all the old white gums on the property. So a really beautiful bird, and that gave us the inspiration to call it Rosella Roost. We're a pretty new farm. We've only been going for 2.5 years. We've moved onto the farm 2 days before lockdown. So from that point onwards, we have been running pastured layers and pastured broilers with also Japanese quail. And I run this with my partner, Paula. And since that time, since we've moved in, we've also had a baby. Her name's Paula, and she's about 1.5 years old now as well.
Rosella Roost is a tiny farm with big ambitions. What's the land like, and what happened there previously?
The history of the farm is previously to ours is that the owners ran thoroughbred horses on here. So the farm was called Mistyville because their thoroughbred horse that had been in Group 1s in Melbourne and over in Japan was called Misty Weather. So we're only a very small farm of only 8 hectares where we're surrounded by other farms in the area that are more than 200 hectares. So we're quite a small pimple, should I say, compared to our neighbours that run traditionally cows and sheep grazing country. So our farm is very small, and yeah, we're sort of just a little speck in Rosevale compared to all our neighbours.
Anthony and Paula were engaged in aquaculture studies when they met. Anthony explains how they ended up farming chickens in Tasmania.
We had been following regenerative farming for more than 8 years now. Paula and I both met at the Australian Maritime College here in Launceston. We were both mature age students. I was here following a passion for seafood, and Paula was doing a first year aquaculture as sort of a stepping stone to going into being a vet, getting some academic studies behind her belt to then do a harder course. And so literally from there, we have fallen in love with Tasmania during our studies, and we, like everyone else, wanted a little parcel of paradise down here as well, where we could be self-sufficient, produce, have our own livestock, eat off the land, and also make a profit on that. So while post-academic studies, we went and worked down in Hobart using our degrees. But during that time being in Hobart, we were still always consistently looking for a little parcel of land. So in that area, it needed to tick a lot of boxes. We had many different types of characteristics that we wanted to tick. had to be already land that had grasslands on there, that it wasn't going to be native bush, that we had to actually turn back to grasslands ourselves using machinery. And so during that time, we had put an offer on somewhere in the Huon Valley, and that didn't go through. And then just looking at the whole of Tasmania, doing a whole search, the farm was actually one of the last ones on our list to check. And as soon as we had a look at the farm, we knew subconsciously that this was the right purchase, and pretty much put in an offer, and it was accepted. So, we've been studying regenerative farming, and seeing and following other farms in the US and in Europe. And so we had already a basis plan that we'd like to go into poultry before as our first enterprises in the business. And as soon as we sort of moved in 2 days before lockdown, it sort of all begun with building all our own infrastructure, and then starting the enterprises off.
You might not think that fisheries and chicken farming have that much in common, but Anthony has found some crossovers, as well as some major differences.
My major was fisheries management, which at AMC has aquaculture and also marine conservation as main topics and subjects that cross over. So that was really, really interesting. And so then looking at the regenerative side, it's really hard. The ocean is extremely hard to there's so many stakeholders that are involved in the ocean that you have to think of. So it can become quite political, where in regenerative farming, it ticked all boxes, because you sort of could be a manager of your own parcel of land and then apply your management skills to it for improvement. So you sort of had a bit more control over an area which didn't have to involve so many other stakeholders to do that type of things. So it stood out as regenerative practices because it was we had really degraded land and soils when we picked up the farm due to just poor management and lots of overgrazing previously. So this ticked the boxes. We knew, regardless of the land that we had, that this system with a cow-chicken combo would actually help improve soils and bring back the perennial grasses that were needed. So, in a sense that, and also producing very high quality food for people to enjoy. So sort of it ticked all our boxes, and it's sort of everything from the university degree has rolled over then to the farming practices, even though it's terrestrial. It
would be a rare farming project that goes exactly according to plan. Anthony explains how Rosella Roost has panned out in its first 2 years.
Our first sort of how we wanted to start was actually with the meat chickens. So we had our heart set on straight away doing broilers and providing pastured chicken meat to market. But we honestly went, well, what's better and lower risk is to do pastured eggs. So that's the bread and butter for being able to then scale up for the profits of the eggs to then move into other enterprises later. So we went, all right, let's go and do eggs first. So the girls start laying. So we on farm, we actually get all the chickens in as day olds. So we have a brooder here that we can produce chicks in wintertime when outside temperatures are -6. So we can get in day olds, and they've got a really nice, comfortable temperature. They don't have any drafts, and you can produce chickens. And until they're feathered, we then put them outside straight on pasture as soon as they're feathered and as soon as the environment. Of course, we can get chickens out on pasture much quicker in the summertime.
Regenerative farming is philosophy in action, built on cycles of activity and rest, working with animals and nature to improve the soil and, in turn, the produce.
So what we do is that we've got 6 house cows that we push through. So I've literally the fencing structures that were already here previously from the horses I've pulled down, and then we strip graze our cows in a pattern, not in a circular motion just going around, but I do it to an observation of where the grass is growing the best, because we've got very differential soils on our property. It's not all the one homogeneous soils over the whole land. So some areas of grass grow better than others, and some areas you want to leave a lot longer. It doesn't, the grasses don't come back as quicker as they do. So I run the cows through first, and depending on what season it is, I will then push our layer flock behind them, probably anywhere from 8 to 12 days after the cows have gone through. So the cows come and knock down the grass first, and then the chickens come through 10 to 12 days later. So it's an ever-going process where the cows are being chased down by the chooks consistently, and then they scratch around. They're the fertilizer spreader. They're the insect eaters. They eat a ton of pasture as well, and then they sort of in their grid structure that we have. So they're in a mobile chook home. So that grid gets moved on observation. So we're just using the animals for their tools to create the grasslands again. We're allowing a disturbance, you should say, in ecology. So where like a tree falls over in the forest, like new growth life just goes, comes back from its being in a sort of lag scenario, and allows like the natural seed bank to come through. So we're not using any synthetic inputs. We're not using any sprays or anything on the land. We're just allowing succession to sort of come into play after a disturbance. So that's in the sense it's a cow chook combo. It covers every single bit of the land that we're on. It's a very high impact and then low intensity. So long rest period in between grazes.
So the soil is improving and the chickens are happy and laying. What about collecting the eggs, checking them and getting them to market?
So there's 2 processes going on. One is the pullets that are needed to be fed and moved every day, and then or broiler chickens, and then you have the other process of the egg collection. So we have a mobile chook house that is on wheels, which me and a friend built. So that has your egg laying boxes in there and all their perching space for sleeping at night time. So pretty much egg collection you can do at once a day and collect your eggs, and then pretty much we have a packaging area that is designated for eggs, which is then eggs are graded to weight depending on their size. We're candling to see any micro cracks in the eggs. So we discard all micro cracks on any eggs because we want to we don't want anyone to, of course, get sick. If that egg is then left in an environment that's hot or anything else like that, for them to get sick quite quick. And then of course, what our market was, because we were both from hospitality backgrounds. Instead of going to the markets, we knew that there was a lot of chefs can really showcase made the top restaurants here in the north. We said who we were, what we're doing. I showed them some drone footage of our process and what the chickens were doing and moving behind cows. Also invited them out to the farm with them and their chefs to show the process of what we're doing, and approached the restaurant angle for our eggs. So pretty much all eggs are accounted for every week. And, of course, we could possibly scale up and double the size of our egg enterprise. But, there's so many hours in a day with time management being a farmer and also being a new dad. So, so that's where our angle is on where our eggs are sold.
I've eaten Rosella Roost eggs at Grain of the Silos restaurant in Launceston. They are lovely to look at and beautiful to eat, with rich yolks and a lovely pasture-fed brightness. Knowing the chickens are happy free-range birds makes the eggs taste even better. What does it mean to the farmers to have their produce in such a setting?
We have to give a lot of praise to the chefs for showcasing our eggs, because they're doing sort of a marketing thing for us, since we've just gotten hardly any time to go out there and promote that. Hard for me to get the videos and everything happening on social media platforms, because there's not too many extra spare hours you have and having a 1-year-old. But the chefs are showcasing our eggs. We're really proud. We just got invited to meet the producers event at Grains of the Silos, where people got to hear from their dining experience, our process and why we are upholding egg quality, animal welfare. We're rebuilding degraded environments with the use of this management practices. And that was our first off-farm experience that we'd had in a night out in 4 months' time. So it was a really proud moment, and also a really nice reflection from them, the clients, to come up and say and just express how good your product is. So it gives us meaning again when you're sort of slaving away out here in the process that you're doing, and also that feel good thing that you are producing really good food.
Being a small farm means production is tight, and not everyone who wants Rosella Roost eggs can get them. Is that a good thing? So
firstly, all our eggs are sold every week. So the number one thing is that we've never had a backlog of eggs. Like, eggs can last if you've got the right if you got the right environment and temperature. Like, eggs last a long time. But we want to sell every single egg off our thing, so we've got no backlog of stock. So 1A, it's straight literally from picking up the egg and then going straight to market. So you got a freshness quality aspect there. That the egg has been laid to the chefs. It's been laid like literally 2-3 days before going out. So that's one thing. Also, the attention to detail for those micro cracks, like having such a high attention to detail, and then discarding just ones that you're just a bit unsure, but having that discarded anyway, even though it might be a good egg, it means that because of the freshness, and also that they're not allowing any sort of oxygen transfer there, the egg will be able to poach at its best. So you've got a poaching quality there. The other aspect is those chickens get access to fresh pasture every 2 days. So I've got the birds hooked on the pasture, not on the grain feed bin. So most of the eggs, of course, caged or any other system, you do have to have a high-protein diet. They're very high-octane birds. They need to have a high-protein diet to actually be able to lay an egg every day. So with our process, like, I've got them hooked on the pasture, so the birds are eager to go outside and demolish the ground first, and then top their systems up using the grain. So our quality changes with the season, so we don't use any sort of organic colouring for the egg yolks and things like that. You get the egg how the pasture tastes. So if you're going into now through the winter season, probably like the eggs are still fantastic, but come in 2 months' time when the grass is serious and all the other species that have come through since have been dormant, you're going to have a really nutrient-dense, high-quality tasting egg that's even better in over that period. So by letting the animal be able to do its natural thing by eating or getting it hooked on pasture, making it forage for all the bugs and all the worms, and sorting out all those natural behaviours, instead of just being able to have open access to a really good top quality food source in the grains that they have. That's where the flavour and the quality and the nutrient density comes into factor. And because they're moved so often, they're getting access to new food consistently. So that's why it's much better. It's a pastured system. It's better than free range because free range is from a fixed structure, giving access to one particular area or two and then swapping it out, where this is just consistently moving around your whole property. So that, the birds have pretty much always got new feed at their fingertips.
Rosella Roost is part of a community of small farmers in the Launceston region. Anthony talks about the emotional and practical support they've found from their neighbours.
All of Tasmania is a food place, and lots of foodies and passionate people. Look, we've met a lot of really, really good people through Sprout organisation, which are for some small producers. So a lot of us have met and or are on different cohorts through the Sprout Producers program, where they give you their coaching and their networking to all other amazing people that you wouldn't meet, because a lot of good producers maybe don't even need to advertise because their product is sold. So there's a huge food community. There's a really big and really strong community here in the north, in all different types of either vegetable growing or different species in animals, in cows, pigs, chickens, like us, you name it. There's lots of people that are using natural, should you say, non-spray, no chemicals systems that are different than the norm, different from the traditional farming, and they're producing really, really top quality food. So the northern aspect area, southern, northwest, there's a lot of upcoming and people wanting to a lot of startups happening as well. So there is a big food community here in the north.
It's satisfying and rewarding to produce wonderful eggs that are beloved by those who use and eat them. But farming is tough and beset with sacrifice. Anthony explains the long game.
Look, there's always pros and cons with doing this. This was sort of, you'd say, a leap of faith type thing to do, even though we had been following regenerative farms in North America and Europe that have this exact same system that what we're doing. To be able to go out there now and see where soils were really poor and that the cocksfoot and the prairie grass is just bucketing through at the moment is fantastic. I guess in a sense this is really labour intensive on the con side, is that because I'm out there and we're doing egg collection, it is every day, it's all day, every day, and this is every farmer's dilemma, and with animal husbandry, it is a non-stop event. So there's a lot of sacrifices that have to be happened for you to produce a good quality food. And also in this system, in this management style structure on the farm. So to move the chickens and do that, as an observational thing, we've had a lot of rain that comes through, so the chickens have scratched up the surface really quickly because the worms are coming to the surface and they just want to get to them. But I don't want to, even though the soil will rebuild itself, it will come back. I don't want it to heal very slowly. I want that pasture to come back quicker, so I have to move them. So that's a sacrifice of going out there, moving them after dark, and of course being at home and having to do that. So like the labour intensity of it can be quite daunting. It's a day-to-day thing, so you can say that it is a grind. But then also the positives are like, this is what you'd say the work you're doing here is like superannuation. When you're making your ground and your soils much better, alleviating compaction, getting the microbes and the ecology and the environment humming, and for things to thrive and for it to be, as you say, like it just gets better and better. It is like superannuation. Like we'd be able to, every year can get better, and then possibly we can add more cows, and then we could possibly add more chickens in the area because the ground then responds in 2 months' time. The grass is back up to knee deep. So like there is the pros and the cons. Labour intensity is this one, but then also I guess when you receive feedback from your restaurants that your food's is in demand, like that's a really that's a really positive reflection on yourself, that you can say, well, all eggs get sold.
So it's not easy, but there is lots of satisfaction. What does Anthony love about what he does at Rosella Roost?
Well, look, I am not sick of my eggs, so that's a good start since we've got 300 eggs coming out every day. Look, that's, if you can, like you eat your food, you just know it's good and it's nutrient dense. Like there's something subconsciously your body goes, and it's also the same when you get other foods subconsciously. Like when you're eating it, you know it's not just all it's not just water based that's pulled up from NPK, and there's no nutrient factor. You actually feel satisfied at the end of your dish, and you don't need to eat more, and then that gets you going. So yeah, I'm not sick of my eggs. We'll have them poached, then fried, then scrambled, and then like we had some of burgers last night with eggs on them as well from our own cows that we've processed and that as well. So like, yeah, it's that's one thing is that we look at it and go, geez, we eat bloody well. And yeah, I might overindulge a bit still. But yeah, no, it's one of the privileges of having your own farm and producing your own food. I'm helping the environment. I'm doing something good. I'm actually making things better. I'm producing really good food that I really love to eat, and then I'm sharing that with other people and restaurants that are showcasing it, and then them providing them top quality food. So there's yeah, it's I guess in the sense that you are being very successful, and you are doing something that's really that works to your ethics and works to making better things socially, environmentally, upholding animal welfare, and then producing, and then in an economic sense that everyone's driven through and money makes the world go around. There's a sense of being, there's economic advantage of doing this process. So like it ticks everything. Like, yeah. So I guess the only thing is the factor is that probably with this process of chickens, that there is just a bit of a time constraint that you've got. You have to go out to them every day. So unfortunately, going for a scuba dive over on the East Coast for scallops or for crayfish or other things, sometimes that just can't happen anymore. So anyway, but yeah, no, it's a really good process what we're doing.
Anthony and Paula are improving their patch of paradise in the Launceston area, as well as feeding their community beautiful, ethical eggs. It's not easy being new farmers and learning as they go, but there are tangible benefits to the life they're building. They eat well, they're making the world better, and they're part of a like-minded community that supports and validates their choices. Chickens are demanding, but Rosella Roost is ticking most of the boxes. This is The Producers. I'm Dani Valent. The Producers in Launceston is a special series celebrating the producers and people of northern Tasmania. These podcasts are a partnership with Agricultured, a food showcase of this beautiful and rich region, sensitive to heritage, forging a tasty future. Listen to all of the Producers in Launceston podcasts on the Deep in the Weeds podcast network.